Welcome to the Intercut Podcast channel, the weekly place to hear the latest on the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I'm your co-host, Zack, and joining me, Hollywood's fourth most recognizable redhead, it's Arturo Zurita.
I would be surprised, bro, if you found red hairs on me, but I am excited to talk about one of our favorite actresses, the one who we're always pulling through. Even if this isn't the year where I think a lot of people are coming up to bat for her, we will come up to bat for the rest of her filmography.
Definitely. And there's no better way to get into a discussion of one of Hollywood's leading ladies than to complete this dude trifecta with a first-time guest here on the Intercut Podcast channel. Welcome, Jonathan Fujii, a.k.a. The Film Drunk. What's going on, buddy? Thank you so much for joining us for this episode.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about a very prominent figure in Hollywood who also has an interesting career. At least as of late, especially.
Yeah.
So, a lot to talk about.
Definitely a very interesting career. Amy Lou Adams. She was born August 20th, 1974 in Aviano, Italy. Didn't realize she was born outside of the country while her father was serving in the U.S. Army. But she grew up in Colorado and began in musical theater as well as a dinner theater dancer before getting cast in her first film role in the movie Drop Dead Gorgeous, and subsequently moving to Los Angeles to become one of the premier leading ladies in Hollywood. In her nearly 3-decade-long career on screen, she's demonstrated incredible genre versatility, equally comfortable in heartbreaking dramas or slapstick comedies, esoteric auteur-driven films, and broadly appealing blockbuster movies. She's been in psychological thrillers, movie musicals, biopics, superhero movies, and she's even played the soon-to-be vice president's mom. Fucking yikes. She's also managed to score 6 Oscar nominations, 1 for Best Actress and 5 for Best Supporting Actress. Let's start this thing off with a little bit of trivia. Art, can you name the movies for which she was nominated? All 6 of them.
Junebug, Vice.
2.
I'm going to say Nocturnal Animals should be.
Not for Nocturnal Animals. I think she might have gotten a Globe nomination for that one, though.
Oh, The Fighter.
The Fighter. That's 3.
Ooh, I want to say Night at the Museum Battle of the Smithsonian, but that might have just been a Nick Choice Award.
Jonathan, you got any of the other ones?
Did you say American Hustle?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That was the lead actress nomination. That's 4.
Doubt.
Doubt's 5, and
Arrival.
The Master?
The Master, yeah. Very notably not nominated for Arrival.
Right.
In 2017.
She got Doubt, though, no?
Yeah, she did get Doubt. She did get
I was
Doubt.
about to say.
Yeah,
Man,
absolutely.
Okay, gotcha. And Master.
Also not nominated for Enchanted, which in retrospect feels a little bit weird to me.
That's kind of crazy because you guys may disagree with me, but I think that's a powerhouse contending performance right there in Enchanted from out of everything. But definitely, she did not get it for Hillbilly, right?
No, she did not get a
nomination
nomination for Hillbilly.
That was like the last big campaign.
No.
Yeah, okay, good thing.
There are only 3 actors who have been nominated for more Oscars and never won them. Jonathan, any idea who they are?
Bradley Cooper.
He's getting up there. Wait, how is he? That's a great answer because he doesn't have as many acting nominations as her, but he does have other categories.
Oh, just acting. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's my bad for poorly
He's
phrasing
still
it.
a loser, but not just for acting.
Exactly. He's a more general loser.
He's more a general loser. Oh, I got one. Glenn Close.
Yeah.
There we go. Glenn Close is tied for the most with 8 nominations without a win. The other 2 are Peter O'Toole with 8 and Richard Burton with 7. So she's in pretty elite company as far as, Academy Awards losers are concerned, at least.
Yeah. Sorry, Bradley Cooper. Sorry. Didn't mean to throw you out there.
Wait, how many in total?
6 nominations without a win.
And that's what made them losers. So if Bradley's got 12 Oscar losses, does that make him a double loser? Because that's what he's at right now. Nominated for 12.
Twice as big of a loser as Amy Adams.
Wow.
How unfortunate. Let's quickly talk through her filmography before we actually get into this bracket. We mentioned that she got her first film role in Drop Dead Gorgeous, which I haven't seen, but a lot of my friends on Letterboxd seem to love it. Art, you said you saw a little bit of it?
Yeah, I think I had seen it a while ago. A lot of these movies turns out that I had seen them a while ago, but I did not get to rewatch the entirety of it for this bracket. But she plays like a small but like cute part. She has that really big era at the beginning of her career where she would just play like the girlfriend, or what she was in Catch Me If You Can, like these parts that are tiny but they end up becoming like a pivotal bit when you go back and rewatch them. So she's good in it.
Yeah, definitely. She gets a lot of small roles, like you were talking about, in movies like Psycho Beach Party, The Slaughter Rule, Pumpkin, and Serving Sarah, all of which are not here on our bracket. But she also lands one of the lead roles in Art's beloved Cruel Intentions 2.
The series is beloved. This one in particular, I don't think is the worst out of the follow-ups that came out of it. But if you know anything about the Cruel Intention series, which they just remade for Prime, they're pretty salacious. So I'm really surprised that Amy Adams she took a lot of roles at the beginning where she was like the hot thing, the side piece, and in particular here, the one who's kind of manipulating everything because she's a seductress, if you will, in this movie. I don't think it's the worst follow-up in terms of sequels that came out of the 2000s, so I'm not arguing for it, especially with what's going up against it. But I don't think it's a bad movie. Not a great movie.
Yeah. She then starts to break out in 2002. She gets a small but very memorable part, as you mentioned, in Steve Spielberg's Catch Me If You Can, which must be where I saw her first, though I wouldn't know it was her until years later. She's in The Last Run. She's in The Wedding Date. She's in Standing Still, which won't make our bracket. But then she gets nominated for an Oscar for Junebug in 2006, and her career really takes off from there. In 2006, she'll also play Susan in Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. In 2007, she's a literal Disney princess in Enchanted. In 2008, she co-stars in Doubt as Sister James opposite Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman and earns her second Oscar nomination. She then goes on a run of films including The Fighter, The Muppets, and The Master. And then she's like a full-on leading lady by 2013 when she has probably the apex of her career with Man of Steel, Her, and American Hustle all in one year. And I feel like this is also a bit where the movies start to become a little bit more questionable. The further along we get. In 2014, she does Big Eyes with Tim Burton. It's okay. In 2016, she has another pretty big year with Batman v Superman, Arrival, and Nocturnal Animals. There's obviously an exception to that rule there with Arrival for sure, and some of the others. But then in 2017, she's in Joss Whedon's Justice League. 2018 is Adam McKay's Dick Cheney biopic, Vice. There's also the Sharp Objects limited series, which a lot of people really love. And in 2020, a global pandemic breaks out, and it's been dire ever since. She makes Hillbilly Elegy. She makes Women in the Window, Dear Evan Hansen. Since then, she's been in the fine but forgettable Disenchanted, and more recently, Nightbitch, which is good. Jonathan, you've had a chance to see Nightbitch, right?
Yeah, I saw it at TIFF at the premiere, and I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it perfectly fine.
Yeah, probably not like the heights of Amy Adams movies, but better than the recent run she's spun
solid
on.
though, solid.
Yeah, and that's sort of part of the interesting thing with her career is that I feel like for as many really memorable modern classics as she's been in, she's also been in like an equal amount of complete duds. Where do you feel like she's at on her current trajectory, Jonathan?
I think we've been on a downhill for a bit. Mm-hmm. I think it's okay to say that. But with an actor of her caliber, I always assume like the next one is where like we're back. Like we're on the upswing here. I really thought it was gonna be Nightbitch. I thought like everything about that, like Mariel Heller, she got the TIFF Tribute Award. I was like, okay, this is it. Like now we're gonna go back up. And I guess I would still put my money that is where we're at. I know Nightbitch is like a quiet movie. Honestly, I haven't heard like anyone talk about it since.
And it's out, right?
I think it's out already, which is insane.
Like not limited, it's fully out there.
It's just out, and no one is talking about it. But for those who do see it, I think she gives a good performance. It is certainly better than the Dear Evan Hansen Hillbilly Elegies of the world.
Yeah,
I think this will be the start. This is where I will put my money on.
All right, good.
Yeah, I mean, there's also just this thing that I feel like has taken over a bit of her career, that whole narrative of Amy Adams deserves to have won an Academy Award, and it just sort of dominates a lot of discussions over like her upcoming films or the buzz around her films, and I don't know, it feels like it's maybe even doing a disservice to her career, whether it's her like chasing Oscar bait or people disregarding movies like Nightbitch when they realize it probably won't get nominated for an Oscar. I feel like people bring up actresses like Cate Blanchett or Meryl Streep, maybe even Julianne Moore and Viola Davis instead of Amy Adams when we talk about like the best actresses working today. Art, do you feel like she deserves to be in that conversation too, or is she more of like an A-tier movie star instead of that S-tier level?
No, I think she has the ability to. I think the difference is from the actresses that you've mentioned, they don't take roles like Lois Lane in Man of Steel, Justice League type stuff where it ends up kind of disintegrating a bit. I think the other people are able to have better campaigns. I just don't think she's stuck on like wanting to have a very prestigious role every chance that she gets. I think that's why Nightbitch for both Marielle Heller and for her was like a movie that wasn't really vying for the Oscars as much as it was them trying to vent through this project. I kind of like that about her. I like the I wouldn't even call them risks or swings. That like Jonathan was saying, like it's one of those where because you know that she can deliver the goods, it's just like, did she team up with the right person this time around? And to me, she's like that Arm & Hammer stock, bro. Like it may dip down sometimes, but I've had my money in there since the beginning, and I think she'll bounce back eventually.
Would you agree, Jonathan, that she can be on that level?
Yeah, for certain films, Amy Adams is a very interesting actor to me because I like her like unequivocally. I think she is absolutely a great actor, but like the fact that like the trivia you just said, where it's like only 3 people have been nominated, or like I don't really understand why she has like that many nominations. I don't view her. She's like, in basketball terms, she's like a really good starter. You know, it's like she's consistent for the most part. Like she's good enough to be in the starting lineup, but she is not LeBron James.
It may be an all-star, but not a franchise player.
Yeah, like an all-star every few seasons. Sometimes will get injured maybe for a whole year, tear a ACL. So it's one of those careers to me. So that's why she is very interesting.
Out here calling Amy Adams Paul George. Okay, I get it.
She's better than Paul George.
Oh, I meant to ask, Art, where do you think is the first time you saw Amy Adams? Was it Cruel Intentions 2? And when did you like fully register her as like a talent?
Oh, no, it was Enchanted. I think when Enchanted came out, I didn't recognize her from Talladega or Catch Me If You Can. Like, I think after I saw that one, and I was like, oh, this is like a really big actress. That Sunshine Cleaner movie came out afterwards, and I rented that at Blockbuster. And then I think from there is when I realized, like, oh, she's had small parts in other stuff, but it was easily Enchanted that did it.
Was it the same for you, Jonathan?
Yeah, definitely Enchanted. I remember, I don't know how old I was, maybe like 10 or 9 when that came out. So like, obviously as like just a little boy, I was like, yo, this movie sucks. But realistically, I knew deep down in my heart that that was an amazing performance. That's a good movie. That was when she really came on the scene for me.
Definitely. All right, well, let's get into that bracket. We've got 32 Amy Adams movies selected, and they are organized in terms of their popularity on Letterboxd. So the number 1 seed goes to her, and the number 32 seed goes, as we mentioned, to Cruel Intentions 2. Moves on from that point. Let's talk about that first matchup. Art, do you have any argument to make for Cruel Intentions 2 against Spike Jonze's Her?
No, I'd just say that it definitely broadens the scope that I thought Amy Adams can handle, and it could show that she can even do something as salacious as this at the beginning of her career. I think it's a pretty decent role for her, coming off of what the first Cruel Intentions was, but it's not beating her.
Yeah, I think that's safe enough to say. The next matchup is between The Woman in the Window and Sharp Objects. The Woman in the Window is just such a insane misfire to me. It tries hard to be this really like psychological movie where you're made to question just about anything that's happening, and it just all comes off as hilariously melodramatic.
I pulled it up, and Alina thought it was the parody one that came out, also on Netflix, I think.
Yeah.
That's how forgettable it is, yeah.
Bad
movie. So Sharp Objects, I think we'll take this matchup. Our next one is between Enchanted and Dear Evan Hansen. Jonathan, should we even consider Dear Evan Hansen against
It's a sweep.
Enchanted?
This is a sweep. Get Dear Evan Hansen out of my eyeballs. Oh my God.
Enchanted moves on to the next round. Next matchup is between Hillbilly, Elegy, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Arturo is our reigning Snyder Cut aficionado. A word of praise for Hillbilly, Elegy as it exits our bracket.
If it was shot in black and white, Zach, I think we would be having a different conversation, a 1.3 cut of Hillbilly Elegy, and I think even you would have voted for the man. I gotta go Zack Snyder.
Yeah, that's the difference, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't exactly consider myself a huge fan of the Snyder Cut, but I'm absolutely not voting for the J.D. Vance biopic. Sorry.
It's just too melodramatic, like even without all the politics of it. I remember when it came out, and like this guy was, I guess, on the other side wanting to make like a super liberal film, and then it didn't work out, so then he went the other way. Like it's a funny showcase in real life, but at least Zack Snyder's Justice League has a more interesting backstory, I guess.
Yeah,
He didn't become president, but nonetheless.
It's also just like of the movies in her filmography, perhaps the most blatant Oscar bait. Please.
That's what it is.
Help
yeah,
me
and then,
end my
and then,
streak.
Yeah, mentioning who Glenn Close being in it as well, and that kind of being a partner up there in the amount of losses was interesting.
We're going to a matchup between Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice against Sunshine Cleaning, art which you just talked about watching. Do you think she's a good Lois Lane?
No, I could not care less of her being a good Lois Lane, to be honest with you. Like, I want to give a reasoning for it, but I don't hate Batman v Superman like a lot of people do, specifically the Ultimate Cut. But Zach and I had this conversation about what are we differentiating here? A movie we prefer or an Amy Adams performance and how that makes the movie?
That's what I was going to ask. That's what I was actually going to clarify.
And because of that, I'm going to have to go Sunshine Cleaning because at the end of the day, I want to know what Amy Adams is bringing to the movie. And that's one that she carries from the beginning to the end. Her and her sister, played by Emily Blunt, they have a cleaning service where they have to clear out the most disgusting of disgusting things, from a party to a crime scene, taking out bodies. And I'm going to give it to that one, even though I do think BVS is a stronger movie. Most wouldn't agree, but y'all probably haven't seen Sunshine Cleaning. And I am voting for it here to at least put it on your radar.
I have. It's sweet. It's fine. It's very
adorable,
forgettable,
bro.
but
Yeah.
it's an Amy Adams movie, and Dawn of Justice is not an Amy Adams movie.
I'm trying to think of like what moment in there, right? Maybe I'd give her something in Man of Steel. But like I'm trying to think of Justice League and even this one, and I cannot think of like what's that one Amy Adams scene that I was like, damn, that was fire.
Right.
It really became Lois Lane there.
You do bring up a good point. It's something that I probably should have brought up earlier. You know, we have, when we do these director brackets, it's a little bit easier to decide on what movies should win because the director is so responsible for the quality of the movie. But when we are instead making the focus an actor, we have to decide, like, are we awarding her performance? Are we awarding the film itself? And I don't know if there is a right answer. I feel like it's to each his own. We were talking about this, Art and I, before we recorded this episode, and I feel like it's a bit 50-50 between, like, how good is she in the movie and how good is the movie. Like, I'd rather award a movie that she's an integral part of, but not above a movie that's, like, clearly better, if that makes any sense.
I like what Devesh said in the Patreon chat. If you're doing the flip of that and giving the movie the benefit of the doubt because it's better, even though she doesn't add it, then would you do the same for a movie that's bad but it wasn't her fault?
I guess how bad is that bad movie?
True. Well, she got a couple bad ones. Hopefully not Dear Evan Hansen bad, but we'll see, especially with the second half of this.
Jonathan, I know you're new to the brackets, but what balance do you feel like makes sense going forward?
Yeah, I think that makes us. I mean, what you said about, just this matchup here, like, you know, Batman v Superman, no one's like, oh, Amy Adams. Wow. Like a major takeaway. So there's definitely a balance. We can be flexible with it for sure.
Cool. All right, so we will give this one to
Disenchanted
Sunshine
over the Fighter?
Cleaning. I mean, do we want to talk a bit about Disenchanted and how that movie just lacks the juice that Enchanted had?
Completely. Which is why I'd go with The Fighter, which is what she was actually nominated for.
I can't even remember. Was Disenchanted like a straight to Disney Plus movie?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Must have been.
For good reason.
Yeah. One of the movies that actually does not really need a theatrical release. Yeah. No one's really remembering it the same way.
Still too big of a release. Yeah, Disney Plus.
All right, our next matchup is Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian versus the aforementioned Drop Dead Gorgeous. Jonathan, I think you're maybe a little bit younger than Arturo and I. Were the Night of the Museum's movies big for you, or?
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah, definitely. It's been a very long time since I've seen this one. But I actually rewatched like the first one not too long ago. Honestly, I still laughed a lot.
Holds up.
Holds up.
Solid, yeah.
I have a lot of trouble like distinguishing between them in my memory. Like I feel like they've all blended together a little bit. Was Battle of the Smithsonian good? Like, do we like this one? I don't even remember.
When she showed up as Amelia Earhart in that outfit, it was Zachary Shetland. Yes, it was. Can tell you what.
So are we taking it above Drop Dead Gorgeous then?
Look, I'm gonna say for me, yes, because I think she stands out a little bit more in this one than she does in Drop Dead Gorgeous. Some may disagree though.
Concur.
I'll go with it. I will go with it. All right, our next matchup is Trouble with the Curve versus Nocturnal Animals. You know, Trouble with the Curve, she works with Clint Eastwood. Hard to blame her for that, but I kind of feel like people didn't really jive with this movie.
Nope. This is when he was still putting out those one a year.
Just the ever workhorse Clint Eastwood. All right, so we can choose Nocturnal Animals in that matchup and move on to Catch Me If You Can versus Junebug. In Catch Me If You Can, she plays the nurse with braces that Leonardo DiCaprio's Frank Abagnale cons into marrying him while posing as a doctor. She only has a couple scenes, but she really stands out as this kind of naive, young, gullible young lady. Junebug, on the other hand, I think might have been the first time that like I registered Amy Adams, because I think that was the first year I started like paying attention to Sundance on like IMDb message boards, and there was a lot of buzz about how good this performance was. She plays this really bubbly Southern pregnant mother who completely steals the movie, and it's this, you know, small indie film that Sony Picture Classics put out, and she ends up scoring this Oscar nomination, the only one for that movie. I kind of feel like I want to give this one to Junebug personally, but I also understand giving it to Catch Me If You Can because that movie's great, and I do think she has a pretty memorable role in it.
I have not seen Junebug. It has been on my watch list on the typical letterbox. It's sat there rotting for years. But as an outsider, I feel like it might make sense to go Junebug, you know, as like the first big thing, first Oscar nom. Because Catch Me If You Can, kind of what we were saying with other movies, I think of Leo. I think of Tom Hanks, you know, so. But that's just my opinion.
Fair enough, Art?
Yeah, no, I agree. It is the better movie, but Junebug, her first Oscar nomination, deserves it.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's go with Junebug there. The next matchup is The Muppets versus Big Eyes. Big Eyes is Tim Burton's film about Margaret Keane and how her husband took credit for her work for years, and kind of feels like this movie really should have worked, but it's just okay. Though I think she's pretty good in it.
No, it's a solid story, and especially when you get into Tim Burton going on his run now, saying a lot of his movies were whatever he was dealing with at the time. I'd be interested in revisiting it, but I think The Muppets is a little underrated, and I'm not even a big Muppets fan.
I would agree. Let's go with The Muppets in this matchup. Clean sweep. Next one is between Leap Year and Vice. I haven't seen Leap Year. Art Letterboxd tells me that you have.
I have. I think you got in 2 years you'll be able to watch. You can only watch every 4 years, Zach. So once it comes around, give it a shot. But Vice, I think some people disagree because I know they like The Big Short. Vice is one of my personal favorites from Adam McKay, and I think it fires on all cylinders. I was playing that trailer again. It's the sit-down scene where George Bush, played by Rockwell, sits down with, what's his name, to tell him, I need you to be the vice president. And he's like, let's come up with an agreement, and the whole movie flashes. I think it's an incredible film. She plays a pivotal role in there as Mrs. Cheney. I'm locking in Vice for this one.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have strong opinions both of this movie and of Adam McKay, political satirist, but Amy Adams, Innocent, I remember thinking that she was like the best part of this movie and one of the few things that felt like really real about it. And I'm not nearly as negative as a lot of people on Adam McKay. I found a lot to enjoy in Vice, so I'm happy giving it the win here.
Yep.
Leap Year sadly has become the Netflix movie. I feel like the Leap Year now is whatever Lindsay Lohan's making on Netflix.
Right.
They don't get theatrical releases anymore. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the death of the theatrical rom-com. Okay, Man of Steel versus Nightbitch. You know, I did say in my intro how I feel like she is this incredibly versatile actor, but I do feel like she feels a bit out of place in a Zack Snyder superhero movie.
I thought you were going to say Nightbitch. Again, because even I think Man of Steel is where she's got the most to work with as being like his partner. But even then, I would still go Nightbitch, a movie where she actually is able to do a little bit more, even though it's not the most prestigious one. I like the pocket she was able to get into for humor. And I wish she did a lot more humor because, like you're saying, we always have this thing about her trying to do this drama for the Oscar. And it's almost like it's not that we're even that attracted to her drama as much as we are attracted to her winning the Oscar. So people look at Nightbitch and they go like, oh, she's just doing comedy, and we belittle comedy. So we undervalue it. But I think she has really good comedic bits, especially with the way it's intertwined with the editing in this movie in particular. I'm gonna go Nightbitch.
Yeah, we kind of like were introduced to her through comedy. Like Junebug, it's a dramedy, but she's very funny in it. And then she obviously has Talladega Nights and stuff like that. And I like that even
Enchanted,
as she's
right.
Like I like that even as she's ascended and become this Oscar-nominated actress, she hasn't left comedy behind because she can be very funny.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, the biggest joke is 6 nominations and no wins. That's hilarious, bro.
Jonathan, good with leaving Zack Snyder's movies in the first round?
Absolutely. I do not like that movie. I do not like Man of Steel. I'm sorry.
I'm with you on that. All right, let's talk
One
about...
of my favorite Man of Steel stuff was when they asked Snyder, they're like, are we going to get a director's cut of this? You do director's cuts. And he goes, that is a director's cut. And then everyone was like, oh.
It's like,
this is the best version. Got it. Okay.
Gotcha.
The next matchup is between The Master and Charlie Wilson's War, two movies in which she co-starred with Philip Seymour Hoffman, something that she also does in Doubt, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. But between these two, I got to say, I just completely forgot she was even in Charlie Wilson's War. I had to YouTube some scenes to jog my memory. She plays Tom Hanks's assistant, I believe, in the movie.
Yeah.
Just kind of an okay movie. Script by Aaron Sorkin, directed by Mike Nichols. Kind of feels like it should be better, but it's not.
They capture Amy Adams, let's just say, in the early years in a very particular way, which is directed by men that I never expected. So we're rewatching it. Lena's like, who directed this? I said, a woman. I swear to you, I just believe me, it was a woman who directed Charlie Wilson's War. But when you rewatch a lot of the scenes from early on, they really made her like the sexy assistant for a lot of these. You had counted some other ones that were kicked out where she was Bruce Campbell. She's a side piece in one of the movies, and she's the one who's got to turn on him. So a lot of the roles that she had early on, you wouldn't expect for what she has on the second half of her career. But I know you're a big fan of The Master.
I am.
And I'm surprised that you're saying here that it's 3 almost in a row that she had with Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I think The Master might be the second best, but it'd be my pick here.
Yeah, The Master and a Walk.
Absolutely. I feel like you were talking about that point about her being more of the seductress early in career. In the beginning of her career, it's kind of like she gets the Isla Fisher parts, and as she moves on, she gets the ones that Jessica Chastain wishes she was getting.
Wow, that's a good point, because Leap Year is always, in my mind, as a Isla Fisher movie, and it's not. I think she did the Shopaholic one around that time.
Yeah.
Good point.
All right, our next matchup is between a couple of her Oscar-nominated parts, Doubt and American Hustle. It's a couple of great performances. I kind of prefer Doubt as a film, but I also think she's maybe a little bit better in American Hustle. Do you guys have a strong feeling either way? Jonathan, do you like American Hustle? I know people are sometimes mixed on that movie.
I cannot fucking stand American Hustle.
Okay, good.
I cannot stand that movie. Oh my God. I watched it because I was like, oh, it had 10 Oscar nominations or whatever. And I watched it and I wanted to rip the skin off my face. I thought it was such an obnoxious movie.
Yeah.
I hated almost everything about it, but Amy Adams is very good in American Hustle.
She is good in it.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with that. I've seen a little bit of Doubt. I don't know what happened, but I've seen 20 minutes of Doubt, and maybe my Wi-Fi stopped or something. So I haven't finished it, but again, I cannot stand American Hustle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the movie works. It just has these super splashy performances, and I feel like Christian Bale, Jennifer Lawrence, and even Bradley Cooper just end up with more memorable roles than she does. But
yeah, but she's the more
good.
consistent one.
Yeah,
but I too I don't like it. Probably not. I don't loathe it as much, but the behind the scenes makes it even worse because it's you have a reason for why that movie is as annoying as it is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Look, finish Doubt when the Wi-Fi comes back in. Once it kicks in, finish that movie because it is a masterpiece in my opinion. Yes, she is smaller in it, but I'm going to go with the Doubt because of what she adds to a lot of the scenes. She gets to share a pivotal moment with almost every character in that film, and I think it stands out a lot more to make a better picture. I'm going to go with Doubt between these two.
I'm with you there.
Great.
All right, let's talk about Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby versus Julie and Julia. I actually haven't seen Julie and Julia, but everybody that I know who has says that the Julie parts are the worst part of that movie. So I feel like we got to go Ricky Bobby on this one.
Sadly, I am gonna have to default to Julie and Julia because I do not remember her in Talladega Nights.
She's
And
like,
I'd pick Ricky Bobby, but what is she?
she's like his really tightly wound assistant that he gets with by the end of the movie, and she has this like super memorable like pep talk where she just like talks and talks really fast. It's a fun role. Like she's definitely not like the third or fourth most memorable person in the movie, but I do think she's good in it. Jonathan, do you have a leaning either way on this one?
You're the split man.
This is a tough bracket because I haven't seen Julie and Julia, but also I do not remember Amy Adams and Talladega Nights
What I'm saying, yeah.
at all. So I don't know. I mean, Talladega Nights though has kind of lasted in the conscious a little bit more, right? But then again, it's literally all because of Will Ferrell and John
You're
C.
not first or
Reilly.
last, yeah.
Here's the thing. Either movie we pick is losing in the next round. So
That's fair.
do we just pick Julie and Julia because her face is on the poster?
Nah, screw it. Go Talladega Nights. Is she the one
Yeah.
who said, praise baby Jesus?
No, I don't
I
think
think
so.
that's the other.
Oh, he's still
I think
married?
that's the
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
Anyway, our last first round matchup is Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day versus Arrival. I think we all know it's going to win this one, but Art, you said you wanted to put
Yes.
Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day on the bracket.
I had to, bro. Okay, so during this period of time when Sunshine Cleaners and all that stuff was coming up, we saw Blockbusters. You could rent 3 movies at a time for $40 for the month. Completely different era than streaming. Man, I was on a binge watching all of her movies. I picked this one up. Frances McDormand comes in to be like a maid, and they practically hit it off. She's really rich, Amy Adams, and they kind of just become this like twofer because I guess Amy Adams cheats a lot to the rich man that she's married. Look, it's a very delightful movie. I would recommend it. I think it's one of her hidden gems that she's got on her list. She's adorable in it. But we're talking about freaking Arrival, baby. Come on. No more
Yeah.
human movie than that. But
Yeah.
watch Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day. It's a good one in her filmography.
All right, so let's go with Arrival here. Jonathan, have you seen Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day? I haven't.
I no.
I would
I
hope
have
you
not,
have it.
but you made a
It's such a
good
random-
case for it.
Yeah.
I will add it to my watch list for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
somewhere underneath Junebug.
Yeah.
All right, let's circle back around to the beginning of the bracket for round 2. We're talking about Her versus Sharp Objects. Sharp Objects, the only time that Amy Adams has done like a series like this. Like she's done guest roles in TV, but taking the lead in a limited series like this, she hasn't dipped her toe in it that much. She plays reporter Camille Preaker, who returns to her hometown to investigate the murder of young girls while confronting demons from her past. She's an alcoholic, a bad mother, a tortured daughter, and she gets to explore the character across 8 episodes. Whereas in Her, it's a bit of a strange number 1 seed because it's mostly a two-hander between Joaquin Phoenix and voiceover Scarlett Johansson, but she's also like so real as Phoenix's coworker friend, kind of delightful in that movie. Art, do you lean one way or the other between these two?
Yes. Sharp Objects.
Really?
Just because it has to be an Amy Adams bracket. I know I'm one who sees miniseries as movies, so to me, maybe a little cheating that she's got more time there. But I also don't see this beating out other ones, so I find it fair that for an Amy Adams bracket, while Her is an outstanding picture, she's better in one over the other for what she brings.
Jonathan, I know you haven't seen Sharp Objects, but how do you feel about the idea of Her not moving on in the bracket?
I'm actually going to agree with him. I think Her is a 5-star banger.
Yeah.
But I mean, you said it. Like, even though she is great in the role, again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but you think of Joaquin Phoenix, you think of Scarlett Johansson, you think of Rooney Mara before, or at least I do before I think of
Bro.
Amy Adams.
I agree.
I was thinking, what's his name? Emmett. Who voices Emmett from the Lego Movie?
Chris Pratt.
Chris
Pratt's in that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, don't
Chris Pratt is in that one.
They all go on a kind of awkward date together.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, we're like Sharp Objects. Even though I've never seen it, like she's on the poster. Like she is like the poster. So I'm
Exactly.
okay with that.
And it was a
and
good
she-
streak because it was the author from Gone Girl, then getting a whole mini series, and I know they adapted her other book as well, but this would have been second to Gone Girl in the adaptations.
Definitely. Okay. So our next matchup is going to be between Enchanted and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zach, do you know if, Arturo, do you know if she filmed any additional scenes for the 4-hour cut?
No, I think they just made them in black and white. But Enchanted it's Enchanted for a reason. Why they made a sequel 10 years later? More than 10 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense, but it did not even capture a fraction of what they had going on for this one. I love Enchanted.
Yeah, I think Enchanted is the clear winner between these two. Between Sunshine Cleaning and The Fighter, I also feel like we can probably give this one to The Fighter. I don't think there's any big objections there. Yep. Night at the Museum, Battle at the Smithsonian versus Nocturnal Animals.
That's a crazy bracket.
I mean, probably the two most similar movies on this bracket. Are you guys going to fight for Night at the Museum here?
As a pseudo prequel to Nocturnal Animals, I think it is essential viewing. No, Nocturnal Animals.
All right, let's talk about Junebug versus the Muppets. And, but as the reigning Junebug appreciator, I feel like we can give this one to the Muppets. I mean, she is very, very good in Junebug. She might be better in Junebug than in the Muppets, but she is like really delightful and able to match the tone of the Muppets so well. And like, I just agree with what you were saying before, Art. We just don't, as a society, give the 2011 Muppets movie enough respect.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, I do. I like her and Jason Segel in it. I'm surprised. Sure, I'll go the Muppets here.
I'm good with that, yeah.
Cool, let's do it. Okay, Vice versus Nightbitch. Jonathan, which movie speaks to you more?
Oh, gosh. That's actually a tough one. Mm-hmm. I view them somewhat similarly. Whereas I liked them. I liked Vice when I saw it. Have not revisited it. Mm-hmm. Have real no intention to. Nightbitch, again, liked it. I just skipped all the additional screenings after that, though. I was like, I'm good. Like, I got it.
Yeah.
As an Amy Adams bracket, I might do Nightbitch.
Makes sense.
Yeah, like I think if I liked Vice a bit more, I might vote Vice, but I don't, so I won't. Arturo, do you have a big problem with that?
I'll be the one, Mark. We could go 2-1. I'll give my props to Vice.
There we go.
Fair.
Okay.
I think she has more to do in Nightbitch. More range.
Yeah, she's the lead.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll go with Nightbitch in that matchup. Next one is between The Master and Doubt. And I do really like Doubt. I do think it's great. I think she is maybe a little bit outshined by Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman and maybe even Viola Davis in that movie, even though she's very, very good. But it's also just not the same. It's not the movie that The Master is. And I don't even think her role is quite as interesting as her role in The Master is.
I love The Master. So, again, my Wi-Fi. Blame my Wi-Fi. I'm so sorry. But I love The Master.
I'll do one for Doubt, please.
Okay, so The Master moves on ahead of Doubt, and our last matchup of the second round is going to be Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby versus Arrival.
Ricky Bobby, baby, all the way.
Tough, let's go.
Okay, we'll give this one to Arrival. Ricky Bobby will go fast out of the bracket, and we're down to the Elite Eight. Perhaps the best movies and TV shows that Amy Adams has been a part of. I don't know. We'll find out. The choices are going to get a lot harder from here on out. We start with Sharp Objects versus Enchanted. Arturo.
Enchanted.
I'm less of a fan of Sharp Objects than most people, so I have no problem going Enchanted here.
Enchanted.
Great.
Easily.
3-0 sweep.
Clean sweep for Enchanted. Moving on to the final four. Will it be up against The Fighter or Nocturnal Animals? Jonathan, which way are you leaning?
I have a feeling I might be the odd one out here based off nothing. I don't know, actually. But I think The Fighter is like okay. And maybe I'm figuring out now that David Russell is just not for me. Obviously as a person, but as a director,
yeah,
it doesn't really speak to me at all. She's like good in it, I guess, but even though Nocturnal Animals is absolutely an insane movie, and I understand if people hate it, I respect the swing by freaking Tom Ford of all people, and I think she's good, so I will go Nocturnal Animals.
Tom Ford made A Single Man in 2009, made Nocturnal Animals in 2016, hasn't made a film since. Too busy designing $10,000 jackets.
Yeah, the 007 suits. He was working on one of those movies.
There you go. That kind of counts.
You know what, Jonathan? You weren't wrong, though. This is the part in the bracket where we do end up seeing eye to eye, because I also think Nocturnal Animals is way better than The Fighter. The Fighter it's a solid movie, but I, like you, see why David O. Russell is not everyone's cup of tea, and it's because he's very abrasive, and I think something as big of a swing, like you said, of Nocturnal Animals was exactly what I needed that year, because that was one of my favorites that came out with this intertwined story of what they've got going on between her and Jake Gyllenhaal. A lot of the symbolism that was in there, specifically her look as a redhead, plays a huge part in the movie. So I think she's pivotal in that role. I'm locking in Nocturnal Animals for sure.
Wow.
All right, well, we'll advance Nocturnal Animals, but I'll give a little bit of love to The Fighter on its way out. Yeah, like I kind of like the movie. It
not a unanimous vote. Okay.
To me, this might be perhaps her most like chameleonic performance, Boston accent, fist fighting, Melissa Leo and all. The whole "Don't Call Me Skank" scene. I just don't feel like I've seen Amy Adams with that kind of like hard edge in another movie before, and I feel like she captures that
Disenchanted
well. But again, like this brings us back to the whole idea of like, is this an Amy Adams movie or not? And when you talk about The Fighter, you probably talk about Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale, or even Melissa Leo, who beat her out in the Best Supporting Actress race that year. So yeah, Nocturnal Animals, she is the lead of that movie. It'll advance to our final four. Next matchup, though, is between The Muppets and Nightbitch. Arturo, are you going with the movie where she pretends to be a dog or where she talks to a stuffed one?
I don't even like the Muppets like that, bro, but I might go Muppets.
I kind of am here for it. I think Muppets is probably the better comedy.
This quadrant is insane. This quadrant is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say The Muppets is like one of the 4 best Amy Adams movies that are out there, but that's just the way the bracket shakes out sometimes.
I could be wrong. Maybe it is Nightbitch.
Jonathan, comfortable with us moving the Muppets up?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Move the Muppets up.
Great. All right, and then we're on to probably the most difficult matchup so far. Definitely the matchup of like the 2 best films so far. The Master from Paul Thomas Anderson and Arrival from Denis Villeneuve. I don't even know where to go with this one. I mean, The Master, she gives the most aggressive hand job in cinema history to Philip Seymour Hoffman. The Arrival, she just breaks my heart in several different ways. Jonathan, how responsible do you think Amy Adams is for your love of Arrival?
Oh, that is an interesting question, actually. A solid chunk. A solid chunk. Now that you pointed out, if it was a different actress in, similar caliber, I'd probably still like it just as much, to be fair. But that doesn't take away from what we do have, which is an incredible performance that I think has only, in a weird way, her performance in Arrival has aged even better because she got snubbed for the Oscar.
Right.
Like, everyone remembers that she did not get in for Arrival. And I love Arrival anyways. I think it's amazing. So I would go Arrival, even though I do think The Master is incredible. But Amy Adams, I feel like your mind goes to Arrival pretty fast.
You agree, Arturo?
Easily.
I guess I agree. I love The Master so much, so it's so hard for me to go against it. But again, she has that lead role in Arrival, and when I think about The Master, it really is that two-hander of Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman rather than her two-hander. So we'll go with Arrival into the final 4 of the Amy Adams bracket. Makes you feel
better. It doesn't matter if it was The Master or Arrival. It's losing to the Muppets. So you're good out of the way, bro.
All right. So we have our final 4 movies set. They are Enchanted, Nocturnal Animals, The Muppets, and Arrival. Art, is there a movie that didn't make it this far that you're surprised was eliminated earlier?
No, not really, because I didn't think Vice would make it that high. That's probably like the only one. I'm surprised one didn't get in though.
Which one?
Underdog. Her performance as the voice of Polly Purebred, I thought personally would have made a splash somewhere within the segment, maybe against the Muppets. But
yeah,
other than that, I think it's been a strong one. I've been able to recommend Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day, and 3 of my top 4 are in here. So
I'll bring it up to the bracket makers and scold them for their
please,
omission there. Jonathan, any movies that you feel like were hard done so far, or we arrived at pretty much the right ones?
I can't speak too much because, again, I didn't see it, but are we sure? Like, I feel like people are going to look at the Junebug, the Muppets, and they're going to be like, what the hell? And then not only did the Muppets win, the Muppets is now advanced to
top 4.
Right, because if Junebug beats the Muppets, Junebug probably gets in the final 4. Do we call a mulligan on that one? Do you guys want to question my judgment?
If the Junebug defenders want to come up, we have a whole slew of Muppet defenders that I think will outdo them. So I think it'll even out.
No, leave it. But I just think it's funny to look at.
All right, let's talk about Enchanted versus Nocturnal Animals. Perhaps like the two opposite sides of the coin for what you get in an Amy Adams performance. You get like the bubbly sweetness of Enchanted and the more internal devastation and contemplation in Nocturnal Animals. Jonathan, of these two movies, of these two performances, which way do you lean?
So, no one look at my letterbox for Enchanted. It's probably incorrect. But I might have rated Nocturnal Animals very high now that I'm thinking about it. I feel like I did. But that movie is so batshit. And again, Enchanted was the first time she came on screen for me. I think it is the best use of Amy Adams' talent as an actor. I would go Enchanted. I wouldn't think twice about it.
We brought up the idea of whether or not another actress could be in Arrival, and maybe, but I'm struggling to think of an actor I could think of better suited to something like Enchanted. She is so completely embodying that part, really makes you believe she's like a cartoon come to life. I think it's a pretty incredible performance, so I would go Enchanted as well. Art, do you feel like that's a mistake?
No, that's why I think it's so. This is the most insane bracket that we've done, because I never in a million years would have thought I would have picked her cartoon performance in Enchanted over Nocturnal Animals. Nocturnal Animals has an ending where you have to sit there the same way the character has to sit there once you get to it, and it is profound. It ends in a way that you don't expect the movie to end against its main character. But I think you're right. Out of all the performances here, I can't think of a single person who can mimic what she did in Enchanted. It's like Tangled come to life to a degree. I'm not going to argue with it. I'm going to complete the sweep right there. Enchanted. I can't believe it. And I like Nocturnal Animals better. Enchanted.
All right. And our next matchup is between Arrival and the Muppets. You know that song that she gets in the Muppets Me Party where she does the Charlie Chaplin dancing with the food thing? It's so fun. She's so good at that tone and matching that energy.
That versus the Visions in Arrival. Let's see. I'm going to keep it. It's Arrival for me.
Yeah. I feel like we can agree on Arrival, which then brings us to a final matchup of Enchanted and Arrival. Again, two pretty opposite styles of performance, two pretty opposite types of movie. This one, to me, is a harder matchup than the others. I'll let Art take the first crack at it. Are you going to go Enchanted, or are you going to go with your boy, Denis?
Only one of these got a sequel. If Arrival was that good, Zack, we would have gotten Departure by now. But look, this can go either way. The rules that we have set up, Enchanted definitely fits that role. I'm going to end it with Arrival because it really is all about that performance and energy that she gave specifically for the ending and how it plays into that title with the big decision that she needs to make in that film. And because of that, I'm going to lock that in. But I'm willing to hear Enchanted.
Jonathan, you going to make the argument?
Yeah, I am, actually.
Let's go.
So I think Arrival is a better movie, hands down. I prefer Arrival. Amy Adams in Enchanted, as I said with it versus Nocturnal Animals, I think it's the best use of her talents as an actor. I have always said that like her, when people say like a cartoon character come to life, I really feel like I look at her in Enchanted and I feel like I see like no thoughts, only just like sunshine in it. Like I feel like I can see it. And I've been consistent on that. Like I think like Margot Robbie and Barbie, I think that's like, it's underrated to play like doll, like no thoughts behind the head. So like I see that, I appreciate that. As a performance, I am just more swept up with Enchanted. So I would go Enchanted.
Wow. All right, Zachary.
I don't think you're wrong about how good she is in Enchanted. It is like a transcendently great performance, which makes its absence from her Oscar nominations that much more glaring. Her ability to pull it off, I feel like she does the part so well, it almost negates the need for any of the Disney live action sequels. Not that we needed them in the first place, but like she just does, brings that idea to life in a way that I don't know if anybody else is quite so good at. Brings as much like truth in a weird way to it. Like it takes somebody who has those dramatic capabilities to make you believe that kind of comedy, maybe. I don't know. I think it's a really excellent performance. And even though like Arrival to me is kind of clearly the better movie and the movie that I want to return to more often, I just don't know how responsible I hold her for my love of that movie, even though she's fantastic in it. And again, probably should have been nominated, if not won the Oscar that year.
She did get nominated for supporting, or no, for lead as a Golden Globe, but lost to Marion Cotillard for La Vie en Rose. So you almost had a gold there.
Yeah. And funny again that like we talked a lot in this discussion about like how she is one of the most Oscar nominated actors of all time without winning one, yet we've chosen two performances of hers that were not recognized by the Academy for our final matchup. All right. Art, you went Arrival. Jonathan, you went Enchanted. I think for the best Amy Adams movie, I think I'll go Enchanted.
Dear Evan Hansen.
Let's go.
Just did completely hard done. We did not show enough respect to Ben Platt's vision. All right, so Enchanted. Is that an abomination? Did we fuck up somewhere on the line, or
no, I think it's the one that put her on a lot of people's radar. I think we gave good points for why it should be in terms of a performance, in terms of a movie that did last long. Got a sequel for a reason. And I agree. Like when we talked about Harley Quinn coming out and she was supposed to be like the cartoon come to life, I didn't see it. I like that you brought up Margot Robbie and Barbie because that's the most similar performance that I could see there, that there is a talent that comes into you really taking away that entire humanness of you and becoming this like animation come to life. I mean, I love Enchanted, so I have nothing against it. And Arrival, still Arrival. It is fitting for it to be snubbed one more time, really, when you look at the history books. So with that, it makes sense.
Poetic.
Full circle.
Definitely. All right. So, yeah, I think that just about does it for our Amy Adams bracket. Jonathan, any last hot takes on Amy Adams?
Any last hot takes?
You were right. She is like Joel Embiid. If she doesn't want to play a couple games and she wants to sit out,
she is the Joel Embiid of Hollywood. So her MVP, I guess, is Enchanted.
There we go.
Right.
But never win a ring, I guess.
Yeah, never won a ring. Never made it to that final
How old
game.
is Amy Adams? I know we're not supposed to ask, so let's just say how many cycles of awards has Amy Adams?
Born 1974. I think that puts her at 50
She's got
this year.
plenty of time,
She's
bro.
50.
Come on. She's good.
Yeah, she'll get one.
Yeah.
She'll get one.
She will, for sure. I just hope that doesn't become the dominating force between her career decisions, because she could be so good in so many movies. And
Zack. Clearly, it hasn't been at all. I don't know if we named a top 5. I have technically a top 4. Mine would have
let's do
gone
it.
Enchanted, Vice, and my top 2, Nocturnal Animals. My number 1, Arrival.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot here.
Maybe Underdog at number 5 if we had to pick one.
Is Arrival also probably your favorite movie that Amy Adams is in, Jonathan?
Yeah. Arrival would be number one. It'd be like Arrival, The Master, Nocturnal Animals, Enchanted.
I might go Master 1, Arrival 2, Doubt 3, Muppets.
Yeah, makes sense.
Muppets
Her?
4.
Yeah.
Are you not counting hers?
Oh, her.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
exactly. I
Yikes.
literally forgot.
Yikes.
Points to
Right
it.
there. Yeah, because my fifth
All
is
right.
bad at the Smithsonian, but yeah.
All right. So yeah, those are most of our thoughts on Amy Adams, one of the elite actresses of her generation, one of our
Anyone
best
you want to see
leading
her
ladies.
work with?
Ooh.
Maybe that's
She
what's
does-
missing.
She does work with like a lot of really talented filmmakers, right? Like she's worked with Adam McKay, with Paul Thomas Anderson, with David O. Russell, however we feel about him. Who else could she work with? Should she reunite with Steven Spielberg?
Sure.
Sure.
Now that she's older, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to see her do maybe some with Greta, maybe something with. She's been doing a lot of dark stuff, so maybe if she got with someone like a dark
That
role.
Lynn Ramsey.
Oh yeah,
Lynn
Lynn
Ramsey, thank you. I wanted her to
That's
partner up
interesting.
with someone who will take it to like somewhere dark. Charlize Theron started with like Monster and stuff, and I don't think we've seen the darkest we can of Amy Adams yet. Nightbitch is not that. It's not that.
I like the Greta shout though, because Amy is so capable at comedy, and Greta is like obviously so funny herself. So they would probably make a great match.
Good.
Yeah.
Junebug
yeah,
too, maybe.
I want to see her with Paul Thomas Anderson again, but like the light PTA. I want to see that. Like the
That'd be
light
fire.
vibe PTA, not the freaking dark ass master. I'm
Master.
like, holy
Yeah,
shit.
licorice pizza style PTA.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
I want to see her in that.
Yeah, I'm running
For
through
sure.
them. Like, what should I rewatch? Right? I put on the trailer to the Master, and he's crying for the whole minute of the trailer.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's just about does it. Jonathan, thank you again so much for
Appreciate you,
joining us for this episode. Where can people find more from you?
Well, that's an interesting question right now, but
Yeah.
you know what? You can just find me at The Film Drunk. If you look it up on YouTube, you can find me there. Updated links will be there.
Nice. Yeah, we'll have some links in the description of this episode as well. You can catch more from me across social media at Zshevich or wherever you find videos at Multiplex Show. Arturo, where can people find more from you?
You can find me at Elegy Movies on all social media, from YouTube, Letterboxd, all that good stuff, for every week here on the Intercut Podcast.
You can find every episode of the Intercut Podcast streaming on YouTube, or catch the audio on whatever podcatcher you like using. I like Overcast. And then make sure to follow us across social media at Intercut Pod. That's Intercut Pod. That's short for podcast. And also be sure to leave us a 5-star review if you're on Apple Podcasts. Like the videos, leave us comments wherever you are catching this. It does a lot to help the show. Stay tuned throughout the week by following the Intercut Discord, and be sure to support the show, whether that is on our Patreon or through memberships here on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, I'm having a me party, a party by myself. Thank you.